Hello, this is Mike McCurdy. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to talk a bit about me. It's going to be a little bit about my origin story, as you might call it. I've seen a lot of people doing these YouTube videos of how they got started. So today I just want to kind of talk about me. So let's get this intro rolling and we'll get started. Go. Hello, it's Mike McCurdy. Thank you again for coming back to our channel. If you can and you like what you see, hit the subscription button down below. Subscribe wherever that is down there. Hit the like button, all that jazz. Just kind of let us show us what you think, what we're doing. Also, at the same time, let us know in the comments below if there's material you'd like to see us do more of in the future. So, with that said and all that jazz out of the way, let's talk about me. Basically, I want to talk about kind of how I got started into this business. I know people have asked me, and I probably told this story a million times. I know Caleb has heard this a million times. My wife's heard it a million times. But just a little bit of background on how I got into this business and how it's doing. How are we doing in this business? I worked going way back. Let's see, I was born in, not going to tell you the year, but I always dabbled in gizmos and gadgets. Gizmos and gadgets. I always like to play around with toys, as everybody likes to call them, you know, drones, things like this. I always liked that stuff. And I always liked cameras, but I never really took cameras serious. Just take photos here and there for the fun of it. I worked in the IT field. I worked in the IT field for about 30 years, and I made a decent salary doing this. Great work. Made a lot of great friends. Some of my friends out there, hey. So we worked, like I said, for different companies. I worked with Citrix. I worked in the Microsoft arena. I worked as a consultant, did sales. I was an area director for parts of the Texas area. But, you know, I always wanted to run my own show. Is that sad to say? But, you know, wanted just to do something that was mine, that I could build, that I could run. And I just never really jumped and did it. That's a scary thing, is to jump away from that big corporate paycheck that you got every 2 weeks and that healthcare plan and all that good stuff. But it's just one of those scary moves that down the road, you'll see here in a second, that we actually jumped in and did. But one of the things I always did, like I said, I always took photos whenever I was out working with Microsoft products and Citrix products. I'd traveled a lot. So I traveled pretty much all across the US, going to customer sites and installing Citrix products, installing Microsoft products, giving an analysis on what they're doing. It was great. And I got to see a lot of beautiful countries, and I wouldn't say countries, I got to see pretty much the entire USA, taking photos and just kind of enjoying that lifestyle. So as we kind of went along with this, more and more companies would buy each other out. So I worked with a lot of companies in the IT field that were kind of eating each other and buying each other out. And so finally I had a company get to a point where they just said, yeah, we really don't need the services of what you're doing down in Houston at the time. And that was about the time I realized it was time for me to get out of the business. Looking into photography, I thought there's no way you could make a decent living doing photography. But what we did is we actually found a niche, and that niche, is it niche? Niche? What is it? Niche? Niche? Yeah. Niche? I don't know. You tell me which way it goes. But we had to, the more we were doing, and I had to find basically a niche or niche that would sell photography. And portraits and headshots is kind of what I got started out with. But one thing I want to show you here is this photo. I took this photo, there you go, boink. I took this photo with an old Sony camera. I mean, this is old, the one that I think is still saved to a floppy disk, because I didn't really have the money. I didn't really want to buy a nice camera, and I didn't really want to use my cell phone. So I wanted to go out there and I was just experimenting and playing, and I took this shot. A lot of people loved it. I thought it was horrible. I thought, it's not that great. But a lot of people liked it, and and there was a lot of comments on Facebook and different social medias that, hey, this photo is great. Maybe you should go into photography. And, you know, I was still young and naive, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. So I sat around and thought different ways of getting into it. But what I really loved was the landscape side of things. Still love to take portraits and family photos, but I was always drawn to more of the landscape, the architectural, just more of the beauty of the travels that I had seen. I guess what I'm trying to say is whenever I'd go travel places, I could see beautiful landscapes, I would see beautiful architecture in different cities across the nation, and that kind of drew me into doing more of that niche. As we grew into it, we had people say, hey, have you ever shot real estate photography? And I'm like, no, that sounds horrible and boring. But I'll tell you a little bit how we got in there. Let me show you a couple of photos though. So during that time, whenever I first displayed this photo here, I started just kind of dabbling around and showcasing other photos. And I'll show you this one here. This one here, you might laugh, but this is my first playing around with HDR. This is the first photo I ever played with HDR. And I always called this the cow tree. And it's still one of my favorites. I know it's blown out HDR. It's crazy. But I really like it because it almost looks like a watercolor painting. And it's one of my dear photos that I still love to this day. I just love how the half of the tree is torn off. The cows are not underneath the shadowed area of the tree. They're sitting out in the bright sun. I just thought that was funny. Love the photo. And by the way, sad state of affairs is this tree is near my house and it got struck by lightning and is now laying on its side dead. Yeah, so this was the last photo I could take of that tree with those cows underneath it. Yeah, still got my watermark because you know we had to watermark those photos so nobody'd steal that, right? But that was my photo I took, and I'm still to this day, it's one of my fun photos. I still like it. We still have not hung this on our walls at home, so I guess we don't like it that much. But that's one of the first photos I took. Other photos I took in the area were just sunsets and compositions, and I was playing around with compositions, and I was taking photos like this. This was another HDR shot. I was big in experimenting with HDR. That was the big thing back then, and this was just so cool to pull off a shot like this. The other photos I did, this is another HDR shot. Yeah, you can tell I really liked HDR. So you can see this one. This one's not bad because it actually showcases the shadows, it showcases the fire, some of the stuff around it. I liked it. Still, these are photos that I have a lot of fond memories of. Here's another one. You guessed it, HDR. So you can see that there was a theme going on. I was playing with really vibrant colors, and I still to this day love vibrant colors. There's nothing better to me than a photo that's full of life and colors. I think this is true with most photographers. We see things differently. We see things with a different eye. So to me, things are very colorful. I just look at you might say I look at the world through rose-colored glasses, but in my case, I think I really shift towards the blues and the greens. I love those colors. They pop out. They make the photos just more vibrant. So that's one thing I noticed is that I was really drawn to that color. I think in the old days, we actually had a name for our company. It was like Life in Color or Life in Living Color or something like that because I was really drawn to that HDR phase. But still, these are some of the photos I took, and they're still very dear to me. Some of my favorite photos are these. So you can see I was experimenting and playing with different types of photography, and I still showcase these photos from time to time. I love them. But I've moved on for more of my landscapes. By the way, this is a trip my wife and I took to the Tetons. Yep, I stood out in the middle of the road. There was no cars, believe me, and took this shot. And one of my favorites that I took, and I'll tell you a funny story about this one, is this shot. So, you know, I go out there and I'm thinking, wow, I'm gonna get this really cool barn. No one else has shot this barn, you know. I'd seen other pictures I knew where the location was, and I knew other people had taken photos of it, but I thought, wow, I'm gonna get a shot like nobody else. So my wife and I stood out in the cold that evening. We actually light painted this. She was out there with a flash. Yeah, I sent my wife off into the bushes with a flash while I manned the camera, but she actually popped that with the flash while I took the photos, and we kind of light painted that barn. But I thought, wow, look at me, we are making some really cool stuff here. Find out it's the most photographed barn in the US. Yeah, most photographed barn in the US is the one I took a photo of. So nothing spectacular, but that's the shot we got. As we went on, got more and more into photography, we had people ask us, hey, could you do some real estate photography? And we're like, yeah, but I don't really want to do real estate photography. I want to do landscapes. I want to do people and portraits. And my wife told me one day, she goes, why don't you give it a shot? So yeah, we did. We gave it a shot, and we started taking photos of real estate. And from there, it just kind of exploded. Word of mouth came along when we showcased what we were doing. We kind of went away. I went through a time in my life where I went away from the HDR, and we started using lights. Started learning how to use flash, and we started learning how to light interiors up and make them really vibrant and more alive. A lot of people during this time, yeah, a lot of people were using more of an HDR type look. They were going in homes and they would actually mount the tripod and they just flash away with 3 brackets and they were done. The photos to me didn't look as crisp as flash did. The colors to me were off. So we started doing more what they call a flambient technique. And flambient, I didn't make the name up, that's just what we used. So in that, we would actually take, again, multiple exposures using flash. And with that, we started taking photos that looked more or less like this. So that was our technique, and we would actually brighten up the interior. You could see out the windows. You could see nice pretty blue skies. You could actually see the infrastructure of the house, and we would actually light the interior up as well as basically keep the shadows from the natural light still in the photos. And that was a technique we just got better and better at, and as we mastered it, we started spreading by word of mouth. With that said, our company has grown. We've been doing this now for about 5 years, coming up on 5 years. Think so? Yeah. So yeah, with that, we just did more and more in the real estate world. And again, now we actually work a lot with landscape and architectural companies, taking more of the photos for some of their projects. So we work a lot with, which is a dream of mine, because we're actually working with landscape and with actual commercial companies that make parks. They make some of these structures that go in the large communities around the Houston and Cypress area. It really is a dream come true, being able to work in the field that we do. Recently, I thought, well, let's do something different, something more creative, and that's where the YouTube channel came in. It was just something I wanted to take on to just make myself better at making videos and to think outside the box. Also, I just wanted to kind of showcase what we're doing. It was something fun, something different. So that's pretty much my origin. Give me a little bit of a past of what we did and where we've come from. Yes, it's been a bumpy ride. We've had ups and downs, we've had goods and bads, but in the long run, having my own company, doing what I want to do, setting the hours I want to work, and I'll be honest with you, I work harder than I ever worked in IT. 12-hour days are pretty much the norm. We do a lot of, like I said, editing and things like this, but I love what I do, and it's just simply phenomenal having your own company and doing what you do, doing what you love on a daily basis. So anyway, that's my story. Again, if you'd like to see more of what we do and how we do it, subscribe below and let us know what you think about the material and kind of help us steer the channel the direction you'd like to see it go. Again, thank you so much for joining the channel. We hope to see you in our next video. We're going to be doing more probably behind the scenes in the field, talking to our realtors in future episodes. We'll see you soon. Take care. This is Mike McCurdy. Bye-bye.